Bit of a horse jam there, briefly, very briefly. So this is what happens on a morning when there's a regimental handover or changeover, as they sometimes call it. Here in the yard, it's the first half of the Blues and Royals regiment that just came in. They will go to the stable, change. 2 will come out as boxmen on the horses. Another 2 will come out, one as a gatesman in the arch, and another as a chitsman in the opposite arch. At the back here, the changeover process is ongoing. So you will see the old guard over here, lifeguard regiment. They've finished, they've been here since Monday, they're now done, and they will go back to Hyde Park Barracks for the dismount. On the other side, folks, Blues and Royals regiment, and the reason they're here, they just arrived, and they will be here for a few days at the very least. As I said, half of them, roughly, or 5, went through already. They're on the other side, preparing to take over kingsguard duty. Shortly, the rest, this remaining 7 here on horseback, they will also go into the yard and dismount. But before that happens, the remaining lifeguards that are still at the moment kingsguard need to dismount. Now, what I mean by that, I mean they need to officially hand over to the Blues and Royals. So I'll try my best to be in the right place as each of those steps happens. Okay, so that's what happens at the back. They're pretty much just facing each other, the 2 regiments, brother regiments, household cavalry, mounted regiment together, lifeguards this side, Blues and Royals the other side. Okay, let's go back through the tunnel where the tourists are going into the yard and try and keep an eye on what's happening with the changeover. Next step will be for the boxman to change over at the front. What does that mean? It means that a couple of the guards will come out on horseback to relieve their colleagues. Come out of the stables over here. It's what everybody's waiting for in the courtyard here. They'll come out of the stables over here. NCO, non-commissioned officer, will give the commands and the horses will take over. As you can see at the moment, as I mentioned before, the Kingsguard is still, right now, lifeguard in the arch right here. He's the chitsman, C-H-I-T-S-M-A-N, chitsman. The reason he's called a chitsman is the door to his left leads down to the subterranean level beneath horseguards, and so they used to have the cockfights in the good old days. On the other side, not sure if he's gone yet or whether he's still here. Ordinarily is the gatesman. It's the gatesman on this side, and the gatesman, so called, for 2 reasons. One, because when he takes his rounds, he walks to the front, to the gates, checks on his colleagues on horseback, the boxman. If we go back to the front, you'll be able to see that for the moment, as I mentioned before, lifeguards are still the regiment that are on duty. Here we are. Lifeguard number 1. Apologies folks, I don't know the name of this horse. Super long as that is, yeah, regrettably. And at the other end, his colleague. Lady lifeguard, female guard. There are a number in the household cavalry. In the lifeguards, about total about half a dozen, give or take. So massively outnumbered by the chaps and gents. In the Blues and Royals regiment that just arrived, the new regiment that will be taking over today. Higher representation of lady guards. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would guess something around a dozen or so lady guards in the Blues. So a lot more than the lifeguards, but still tiny number. Tiny number. Oh, we've got a special guest, everybody. Special guest in tribute colours. Tribute colours for the king. Look at this. In fact, almost perfectly matching the horse, and the colour scheme is absolutely super. Look at that. Fantastic. Nice timing as well. That's impressive. I'm actually, it's super weird that you've got that in a good way, because I'm making a narrated video now about the changeover, and I just caught that on the back. Very impressive. But more importantly, on the front for the tourists, what does it say, tourists?
Don't touch the reins.
Don't touch the reins. There, you heard it, okay? From Canadian visitors to London. Do not, under any circumstances, tourists, touch the reins.
Absolutely.
The wind, guys. Yeah, pretty good. I'll be. So that's what's happening here, guys. Apologies. Yeah, we've got a little teeny bit of wind. It's funny. The lady we just saw with the top on said London City Walks on the back. Brilliant. Regular viewer. Funny thing is, I didn't know she was going to be here this morning, so that's pretty cute. That was not a setup, much as it might have seemed as though it were, but yeah, cute. Very, very cute. So all of these people that are in here, they're waiting for that changeover. And it's interesting because this is not even remotely low tourist season, let alone high tourist season. This is, you know, this is post-tourist season in some respects. We're now through the middle of September. The light is going, it's getting dark a little bit earlier. Roughly a month or so from now, it'll be getting dark here before 5 p.m. Yet, despite that, tourist season being over, British school children having finished their holidays, this place always attracts huge numbers of people. Look at this, look. Huge numbers of people. Officer screaming at the lady to get off her bike, cycling through. Yeah, eternally popular. People flooding through the tunnel to watch what's going to be happening. Look at this, look. Constant flood of tourists. It'll turn later into a deluge. At the moment, there's also the guard change taking place at Buckingham Palace, so a hell of a lot of people decide to go to the palace. And then, sometimes they decide to come here after. However, anyone that arrives at the palace late-ish, what I mean by that, after 10:30, has got close to zero chance of getting a good spot down at Buckingham Palace. What does that mean? It means they give up. It means that instead of waiting at the palace, they come down here to Horse Guards instead. Get through for a minute, guys. Okay, get through that tourist group. A lot of people don't like to wait at the back here for that changeover. It's quite a lengthy process. It's interesting if you haven't seen it before, but to watch the whole thing, starting at around 11, yeah, it's quite laborious. Long wait as well sometimes, especially on a moody day like today. Very, very, very windy, guys. So apologies if the video is a little, the audio is a little bit scratchy. And the other blue's still waiting. And as mentioned before, they'll be here until that changeover inside is finished. So we'll try, now that flood is gone, to capture it. So we can, people. It's like magic. The tourists started to behave. They're all in position. What I mean by that? I mean they're on the line. Look at this. Huge number of tourists all lined up, waiting for the new horses to come out.
Met your number one fan over there.
Who? Oh, I'll tell you about that later. And yeah, these horses will be out very, very soon, folks. Very soon. Notice the amount of security here this morning. On a guard change day, there are typically between 6 and 8 officers. They're not Metropolitan Police, they're Ministry of Defence Police. The Ministry of Defence, rather luckily, is that building right across the street. Pretty much opposite horseguards. Look, all of these extremely eager, enthusiastic tourists wondering, hey, what's going to happen next? Guess we'll find out shortly. Sometimes this is pretty quick. They'll come in, they'll dismount, take the horses into the stables, and then 2 new boxmen will come out. Other days it takes a bit longer. It depends primarily on whether the regiment that are already here are effectively ready to up and go. If they're not, preparing the kit, making sure they've got everything, saddling the horses and so on, it can take a lot longer. Luckily, the central courtyard area, I mean it's clear because the pace of clearing everybody, is not as windy as the tunnel area. Famous last words, I guess, but let's see what happens. The bell above, contrary to popular opinion, I can't even speak today. Popular belief, sorry folks, is not Big Ben. No, it's not. It's actually the clock tower above horseguards. And that bell rings every 15 minutes and gives an indication to the guards, chitsmen, etc., when they need to be moving. As I don't wear a watch, there's no other way of telling the time. That 15-minute bing bong above me tells the gatesman in the arch there behind that we saw a little earlier when it's time to do his or her rounds. Sometimes the rounds will be at the front. They'll walk through here, telling tourists to make way or pushing them out the way if they don't listen, to the front, to that central bollard, and very quickly flip around, nod typically to the left and then to the right to make sure their colleagues are fine. If they are, they'll come back in, go back to the arch. It serves 2 purposes. 1, check on their colleagues, and 2, letting them stretch their legs. The boxmen on the horses are there for 1 hour. Okay? So horses change over every hour on the hour. The gatesman to my right and the chitsman, the other guy in the arch to my left, that changeover is every 2 hours. Okay? So if they were not going out doing their rounds, if they were not walking around in here, then the issue would simply be that, hey, I can't feel my legs. You're completely frozen in one position for 2 hours. You're going to get pins and needles. And if that happened, the guard tries to come off shift, he's full on the floor. He or she will fall on the floor, as with any of us. So yes, it's tradition. Yes, it's pageantry. But more importantly, it serves a practical function. Bit of circulation, bit of exercise, and the ability to check on the boxman at the front. And this morning, everyone so far is being pretty well behaved. You can see, look, no one's getting massively screamed at. A few people are coming through on bikes, they're being told to get off, dismount, walk it through the tunnel. Everyone that's walking past me at the moment that isn't waiting for the line, they're going to go through the tunnel and probably, in all likelihood, head toward Buckinghampalace. Not everybody knows that the guard change at the palace is at 11, so a lot of people miss it, and then boom. Anyway, folks, the reason we're here, the changeover, okay? As I mentioned, Blues and Royals. So first up, Lady Guard. She's the first. In the middle, is their NCO, the corporal of horse. To the far left, the other boxman, who I believe, coincidentally enough, as I was just mentioning it a bit earlier about the deficit of lady guards, I am pretty sure that the other boxman is actually a box woman. I think we've got two, remarkably, quite unusual. That not unheard of, but unusual. Once in a blue moon, once every couple of months. Yeah, both the boxmen are ladies. Okay. Lifeguards coming back in, about to dismount. Notice now, you've got a Blues and Royals NCO Corporal of Horse. Following in, Lifeguard, other regiment, Boxman. How curious is that? And the Gatesman is now going to move. Here we are, Lifeguard Gatesman, straight through the tourists. He's now going to go into the tunnel for what will be the handover or changeover of the foot guards. They'll come out here first of all, out of the stable entrance over here, walk in front of me and go left into the tunnel. Ordinarily, I would go into the tunnel. The reason I'm not going to do that now is pretty obvious. We'll get stuck. Let's see, if this flood manages to get through and out of the way before the release guard come out, I will go into the tunnel. If not, we'll film it from here, because the new guard that will come out will be a Blues and Royals, and that will complete the regimental handover. Okay, so here they come. Blues and Royals at the front, soon to be the official Kingsguard, replacing the Lifeguard behind them. Actual changeover will happen in the tunnel, but we'll see it. So the march towards the camera and turns what will be their right, my left, in just a moment. You can hear the sheer number of people behind me. Hundreds of tourists here. Okay, here we go. Blues and Royals. In just a moment will be the official King's Guard. The second they relieve the guard here and replace the Chitsman and Gatesman. Very windy morning here, folks. Look at the plumes all over the place. Again, Blues at the front, Old Guard soon to be, Lifeguard in the middle in a scarlet tunic, followed at the end by, again, Blues, NCO, Corporal of Horse. Household cavalry rank, equivalent to a sergeant in the British Army. Here comes the last, final Blues that's changing over. Boom. Very simple. And there he is in the arch. So now we officially have a King's Guard formed of the Blues and Royals regiment. Lifeguards are finished. Blues and Royals now current King's Guard here at Horse Guards. On the other side, the trooper that just came out, Blues and Royals trooper, is again now the King's Guard, hanging up the chain. His colleague, the Chitsman, is in the arch. At the front, if I go back out, you'll notice now that both of the boxmen, the lady boxmen, I'm pretty sure, as I mentioned earlier, that both are lady boxmen today. Here we are. Happy tourists posing with the King's Guard.
We had to flee angry cans.
So that's the first boxman, boxwoman, boxperson, as you wish. But yeah, officially a boxman on this side at the front. And at the other end, yes, remarkably everybody, we have another lady boxman on an enormous horse. This horse is at least 17 hands to 17.3, I would think. Enormous horse, look. Glorious, massive horse. But it's not over yet. What do you mean? I thought you just said, hey, they're the new guard. Yes, they are. But, despite the Blues and Royals now being the official King's Guard on the ground, we're not quite done yet. What do I mean? Okay, so, what happens to the lifeguards that just came off duty? Well, they're still here. Half their colleagues are still formed up at the back, and they're going to stay formed up for at least the next, I'm thinking 5 to 10 minutes realistically, maybe less. So if they're formed up at the back, that means there's still some Blues and Royals also formed up at the back, opposite them on the parade ground. Now for the moment things kind of calm down a little bit in the courtyard here. Tourists are allowed to move around freely. It's all a little teeny weeny bit random, shall we say. Okay, why? Because the police, just like the rest of us, are waiting for that changeover process to complete. So what will happen next, you're probably wondering? Well, next up are the remaining lifeguards. We just saw them. Chitsman, gatesman, and the boxman that were at the front. Both of them went into the stable area with their colleagues on horseback. So we've got 4. Okay? The 2 that were on foot will mount up on their horses. So we'll have 4, or potentially, if there's still an NCO there, I can't quite remember, 4 or 5 lifeguards will ride out shortly. So they'll come out of the stables in front of me, ride to their right, my left, to the parade ground at the back, join their colleagues who are formed up over on the right, as we saw earlier. Currently, I think 5 of them. After that's done, the lifeguards will then leave horseguardsparade. They'll ride along the mall towards Buckinghampalace and then Hyde Park Barracks beyond. Meanwhile, as they're leaving, the remaining Blues and Royals that are lined up facing them on horseguardsparade, they will ride through the tunnel here and dismount right in front of us. Okay. Now the whole entire process, changeover, handover, takes roughly 30 minutes, give or take. Sometimes it's a teeny bit less, sometimes it's a teeny bit more. At the moment, I can already see the horses are ready. Can't quite probably see in this light, but I can see them. They're ready just behind the gate. And shortly, they'll come out and head through the tunnel. Once they've actually gone through the tunnel to the parade ground and the remaining Blues come through the tunnel from the parade ground into the yard here, that is the official handover, changeover process complete. It means one regiment is done, finished, and they've been here for a few days, and the new regiment, Blues and Royals Regiment, are the King's Guard and will be for the next few days. Looking at the timing on the video so far, people, despite the wind, at the moment we're just under 25 minutes, so they aim to get it done, the changeover that is, in about half an hour. As I said, it varies a teeny bit, different factors. Sometimes they even arrive a little bit late, you know, if the weather's atrocious, if there's a lot of traffic, etc. We just need to wait for this trooper to open up the gates, and then his colleagues will come out. First thing to do is remove the chain, obviously. There it is, chain's down. And when they're all ready, mounted, helmets, plumes, everything looking thoroughly decent. When that's done, they'll come out. So it's part of a waiting game, folks. This video will hopefully give you an idea of just how long the process is, okay? If you haven't seen it before, the regimental handover, I definitely say see it. Until you watch it with your own eyes, you don't quite get a flavour of how magnificent it is, how majestic. And And here we go, folks. Here come the remaining lifeguards. Pretty sure there'll be 5 or 4 plus an NCO. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the NCO, their corporal of horse, is there at the end. So if the 5 just came out, that means that there will be 7 at the back, not 5. So 7 at the back, these 5, 12 in total. That means the lifeguards are now finished. And in a few minutes, you'll see them riding off into the distance towards that memorial at the end of the tunnel. That memorial is called the Guards Memorial, and it's on Horseguards Road at the southern end of the Mall. Bearing in mind Buckinghampalace at the north end of the Mall. So at the moment, Blues are still lined up over on the left-hand side, as we saw. Lifeguards will now be fully lined up over on the right-hand side. Next thing we will see is the lifeguards riding off. At the moment, if I zoom in, right in, you can probably see there are 2 police horses. Ready? Lifeguards are right out behind those 2 police horses. That's the front escort. And once they hit the main road, over where the memorial is, there'll be an escort following them, the rear escort. Armed police escort. Which will stay with them all the way to Buckingham Palace, past the palace, along Constitution Hill, across Hyde Park Corner, and then finally, after going through the park, back home. Where is home? It's Hyde Park Barracks in Knightsbridge, very, very close to Harrods. There's the bell. That's the 11:30 bell. See, this thing is beautifully timed. Get ready for it. Second the police horses are moving, you know the lifeguards are about to leave. Please keep trying to keep everybody on the left. We've still got a very, very, very busy tunnel here. Look, people are still flooding out of the tunnel. Second I see them moving, here they go. Here they go. The lifeguards leaving. Heading off across the Guards Memorial, as I mentioned, Horseguards Road, and then just beyond is the southern end of the Mall. Once they hit the road in front of them, they'll turn right. Meanwhile, Blues and Royals are about to come back through. Had to move a teeny bit. Police are moving everybody behind the lines now. Got the dismount coming up. What's a dismount? We'll see that in just a moment. First of all, Blues and Royals still need to come through. Remember, the other troop that are still lined up, half the troop that are still lined up, they will come through the tunnel next. It's looking as though one horse is not in a good mood at all. Look. Here they come. Lot of noise. The tunnel is absolutely packed with tourists. Packed. We're here right at the front though, luckily. And we'll get a very clear view of the final troopers coming for the dismount in the yard. Some very, 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 very famous faces here today. In this squadron of Blues, some very famous faces. Please form me up. Peak secured at this point. Why? Dismount is coming. How beautifully those horses, magnificent horses, are lined up here, ready for the dismount. Very, very windy morning here. Horses have been pretty well behaved. I've seen horses freak out a lot less wind than this. And there we have it, folks. Absolutely done. Changeover. Blues are here, lifeguards have left. And that, everybody, is what a regimental handover looks like. Time on the clock is 31 minutes and 44 seconds. Any errors in this video are solely my own people. This was narrated in one take. No cuts, no edits. Apologies for the wind noise, unavoidable. But hey, I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless, and thank you.